Worst part about flying? Everyone gets mad when you open the window. I'm your host Youssef, and these are 10 scary pilot stories that will make you unbook your flight. Make sure you subscribe and ring that bell to get notified whenever we upload a new video. Anyways, let's elevate ourselves. Number 10, close calls. From Critical Mock on Reddit. Finally, my time to shine. Airline pilot here, going on 4 years now. I was flying into a small Midwestern airport in the middle of summer. On approach to the airport, we received alert by the onboard equipment to climb immediately to avoid hitting another plane. Fair enough, climb as instructed. See the offending aircraft below us and decide to continue the approach. On a 3-mile straight in final to the runway, we spot a wall of torrential rain rapidly approaching the field. Looks far enough away that we think that we can just beat it to the airport. About 100 feet off of the runway, the rain hits us and we go completely white out. Can't see anything out of the windshield. Immediately start a go around, and we get as low as 20 feet before the airplane finally starts climbing. Upon exiting the rain and at about 500 feet, we finally are able to see again and get another alert for a helicopter right in front of us. This time we are told to descend. All in all, the most hectic and terrifying series of events in my entire time in aviation. About 10 years total now. Number 9, aged poorly. From Axel the Dog on Reddit. I had a single engine rating and some time in piston twins. Grandfather used to be a pilot and owned a Piper Aerostar twin, but he had gotten to the age he hired pilots to fly where he needed. One of his pilot buddies had told him that he was good to go in an Aerostar, and Granddad asked me to meet his friend at the airport and let him take the plane around for 30 minutes or so as a refresher to the systems. Met the guy at the plane and he was about as old as Granddad. I never turned down a plane ride, so I sat co-pilot while he did his thing. I had the sudden realization about the same time the wheels left the ground that neither of us had any business flying that plane. I could tell he just was not staying ahead of the plane mentality. I ended up taking a lot of the duties. I'm gonna go ahead and raise the gear. Let's go a little higher than treetop. Why don't we start a slow turn back to the airport? What I remember most is just booming over treetops at wide open throttle. The ground was moving super fast. Somehow between the two of us, we got back on the ground, but I think that was the moment that old pilot decided he was getting too old to fly. Number 8, too close for comfort. Skiman13579 said this on Reddit. I've piloted, but not certified pilot, but I am a certified A&P mechanic. Scariest moment I had in the air was a little over a year ago as I was flying from my home in Key West to visit family in Columbus. We were on approach into CMH and everything was going smoothly. All of a sudden I hear the engines get firewalled while the nose pitched up about 15 to 20 degrees. It was an extreme enough maneuver that everyone in the cabin snapped alert and started looking around inside to see why. I knew the problem would be outside, so I looked outside for clues on the wings. When I am looking out, I see a small Piper aircraft pass about 200 feet off our wingtip and only about 150 feet beneath us, going in the opposite direction. How do I know it was this close? I can tell you the pilot was white, wearing a blue shirt. As soon as the Piper passed, the nose pitched back down and the engines were retarded. Throttled down, calm down. When I was deplaning, I waited to be one of the last off. The pilots were doing the usual thanks for flying. I quickly asked, near midair, and the pilot got a serious look and nodded, but didn't actually say an answer. Then went back to smiling and thanking the people behind me. Number 7, almost lost radio contact. From Chiplano on Reddit, I was flying around in a small 4-seat Cessna with some friends at sunset. Daylight was running out, and as we were headed somewhere, I noticed a major decline in battery power. The alternator had died, and we had maybe 20 minutes of battery life before all the lights would go out, and we'd lose all radio contact with air traffic control. We were in congested airspace, and losing radio contact would be very dangerous. I turned the plane around and headed to my home airport at full power. I told my passengers that we just needed to return because of a simple warning annunciator. We landed without issue, and for anyone concerned, the engine would have never failed because of the alternator, but not having lights and radios would have been dangerous enough. My passengers thanked me for not freaking them out by sharing this information with them. Number 6, engine out. Virga Days on Reddit supplied this story. Piloting a small aircraft for a sightseeing flight with 3 passengers, I once experienced an engine failure. This was partly self-inflicted and a valuable learning experience. 5 minutes into the flight, I saw the right fuel tank was empty. Because I'd looked in the tanks before departure, and as the indicators are far from reliable, I suspect instrument failure over a fuel leak. Still, I'd rather be safe than sorry, so I decided to lean the fuel-air mixture a bit to optimize fuel economy. Generally, the fuel mixture in an aircraft's piston engine has a bit more fuel than required for combustion. The evaporated, non-combusted fuel cools the engine from the inside. Keeping an eye on the engine temperature, I started reducing the mixture when suddenly the engine stopped. The aircraft went completely silent and started to glide. Pushing the nose a bit to keep the propeller windmilling, I applied the emergency checklist from memory and the engine roared back to life at full mixture. I told my passengers I had to shift gear, while they remained completely oblivious about what just happened. Back on the ground, we found that one of the 2 magnets providing electricity to the spark plugs had failed. Number 5. Tire explosion. From Bushdog, my father is a commercial pilot and has been for decades. A couple years ago, he was in South America and on takeoff, the tire blew. It ripped a giant hole right through the wing of the plane. He had to dump thousands of gallons of fuel and managed to land the plane. The write-up that made the news was something like, a plane had to do an emergency landing after an event today, no one was hurt. However, all the mechanics and people involved said they absolutely couldn't believe he managed to land the plane in that condition it was in. They claimed he should have crashed and couldn't believe it. He was very angry that they didn't tell the passengers and didn't want to fly again for a couple months. He was very shaken. Number 4. Lost all power completely. From ZSCN on Reddit, pilot of an Airbus 320 here, flying into a high elevation port in Asia 23,000 feet on descent. I had a total loss of electrical power. All screens went dark, including standby instruments and emergency lighting. To put this into perspective, Airbus designed this aircraft with 3 electrical generators in addition to power supplied by batteries and the emergency generator. It is designed to never be without electrical power, even if both the engines failed, you ran completely out of fuel, and the auxiliary power unit is inoperative. It's a scenario that pilots don't even train for because it's never supposed to happen. After a partial recovery of our screens, it was followed by 12 consecutive warnings associated with different onboard systems. We landed safely. Passengers didn't notice a thing apart from the lights temporarily going out in the cabin. The car analogy would be you driving at 100 kilometers per hour on a highway and suddenly all your windows are covered up, you lose your speedometer and all electrical systems, and there's no response from the brake or accelerator, but you can still feel the car going. Number 3. Lightning dodging. From Percher, I was flying from Boston to Columbus, Ohio, and in between us was a huge line of thunderstorms. In events like that, Air Traffic Control, or ATC, will, in short, let you draw your own flight path to dodge the intense weather cells. The plane has weather radar in the nose and gives us a visual map of red spots to avoid. The flight was 3 hours long, and the captain and I were spending every second of that time flying up, down, left, right, dodging lightning and turbulence. Sweat was pouring down my face as I was using my best judgment on which direction to fly. We must have done a good job because the flight attendant called up to the flight deck to say all the passengers were sound asleep. Number 2. Flying over a volcano. From Besmirchers, military pilot here, I was on a flight leaving Sigonella, Italy. Mount Etna had been erupting for the past 4 hours, but ATC cleared the southern sector to be free of volcanic ash. We flew directly into an ash cloud at 2,000 feet, remaining in the volcanic ash cloud for about 20 minutes. We had no luck climbing and punching out of the ash cloud, so we ended up doing an emergency descent to 1,000 feet to get out of the clouds. We started experiencing engine malfunctions and had to secure 2 out of our 4 engines. Unfortunately, in Europe, ATC is not responsible for obstacle clearance, and we received a vector that would have flown us straight into a mountain. We caught the error and navigated back to the field to conduct a 2-engine emergency landing without incident. I didn't expect to make it out of that volcanic ash cloud alive. Number 1. Almost landing a plane on another plane. From Harbor Master 1, my father was a captain for Eastern Airlines and told a story about almost being at takeoff speed when another commercial jet taxied across his runway. He was going too fast to abort, so he had to pull up early and cleared the other plane by feet. Don't remember the exact amount. His passengers had no idea, but the other plane's passengers saw everything. I don't know what ended up happening to the other pilot, but my dad got an apology call from him that evening. Thanks for watching. Those were 10 scary pilot stories that will make you unbook your flight. Make sure you like and comment if you think we missed anything, and we hope you have a scary day.